Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into my exclusive Bracketology 6.0 version where I'll go through, I'll take a look at the scores from yesterday, what we've got going on today here on this Sunday afternoon, and tomorrow I'll be coming out all the conference tournaments, all the big conference tournaments happening this next week, the auto bids discussing all of it tomorrow. Tuesday it'll be another Bracketology, Thursday it'll be another Bracketology, Saturday it'll be another Bracketology, and then I'll do the final 10.0 version possibly on Sunday morning to iron everything out. And then we have the selection show, Selection Sunday, and then I'll be filling out the brackets. It's a big deal. We know this on Sunday night. So let's go through what happened on Saturday, and then we're going to look at the updated bracket matrix, as well as some other analytical, especially focus on the bubble. We'll focus on the bubble. But let's just look at the top 25. You've got Alabama beating Auburn in overtime on the road. Very impressive. Bama, potentially a 1 seed with that win. It's very congested right now. Very congested. They do have 5 losses, but it is in the SEC. You would think Auburn, even with the loss, it's by 2 points. It's in overtime. They're going to be a 1 seed. We know this. They're 27-4. You've got Duke beating North Carolina, having a very strong second half in that game. North Carolina, a bad loss for a team that's certainly had a better second half of the year. North Carolina has. Right now, people saying they're on the outside looking in terms of the bubble. Yes, their record is decent, but the conference is not. But Duke is going to be a 1 seed. We know that. Possibly the number 1 overall team with Auburn losing. But Duke's going to have to win the ACC conference tournament, I would say, to stay the number 1 overall seed. But they're locked into a 1 seed. Houston at this point with just 4 losses, 19-1 in the Big 12. Yes, the Big 12 is down a little bit, but it's tough to win on the road. Baylor's had a down year. Still, impressive road win for Houston. I'm really high on Houston this year. Houston is always a team. Every single year they're a 1 seed. They haven't been able to get over the hump. Maybe it happens this year. They're going to be a 1 seed. You've got Tennessee winning at home against South Carolina. They're fighting for a potential 1 seed. You've got Florida winning, having a really good week, beating a good Ole Miss team, winning that game by 19 points. You've got St. John's potentially sitting on the 2-3 line, 27-4 on the year. Easier conference, we understand that. But overtime win against Marquette. Marquette is, that's a good road win against a top 20 team. Texas Tech beats Arizona State. They destroy them. Arizona State's had a horrible year. But Texas Tech possibly looking at a 3 seed going into the conference tournaments. Iowa State sitting potentially on the 3 line as well. They dispatch of Kansas State relatively easily. How about Clemson? Clemson is 18-2 in ACC play. 26-5 overall. Yeah, we'll see. I think they're probably going to seed them as a 4 or 5 seed just because of the strength of schedule stuff. Wisconsin with a really bad loss. This is the problem with the Big Ten. There's just no upper echelon teams outside of maybe Michigan State, although I don't even know about them. But yeah, Wisconsin's probably going to be bumped down to a 4. You lose by 11 against the Penn State team who's 6-14 in conference play. You've got Maryland. They've certainly had a very solid year. Maryland has. They're probably, they're the second best team right now in the Big Ten in terms of how they're playing. Wisconsin, I would probably say, is 4th best, with Purdue 3rd, Michigan all the way down at 5th, and of course, Michigan State at number 1. Louisville, 18-2 in the ACC. Just a weird conference. They destroy Stanford. You've got Kentucky, high offensive firepower, 91 points in regulation. They beat a good Missouri team on the road. That's an impressive win for Kentucky. 19 versus 15, 19 wins on the road. A&M beats LSU. Not too surprising there. A&M at number 22. BYU having a really strong close to the season. They beat Utah. Not too surprising by 11. Utah 8-12 in conference play. You do have Kansas, who is not ranked, but they're a fringe top 25 team, sitting at 20-11. They beat Arizona by 7. And then Arkansas, who also is not ranked, but it's a fringe top 25 team. They beat Mississippi State, who's sitting at number 25 in the country, just 8-10 in the SEC. That just goes to show you how good the SEC is this year. It's been just a weird year in terms of how good the SEC is in comparison. So taking a look at this update, this is updated today, March 9th. So you do have Auburn still sitting on the 1 line consensus, 1 seed, even with the loss to Alabama, 27-4, really good record in SEC play. They're definitely going to be a 1 seed. Duke is obviously going to be a 1 seed. Houston is obviously going to be a 1 seed. Final 1 seed looks like right now, because of Florida's recent impressive wins, is Florida. Bama sitting on the 2 line even after beating Auburn, but they have the 7 losses, so it's going to be tough considering Florida has a better record than them. But it could come down to the SEC tournament. But right now, Florida looks like they're possibly going to get it. I mean, it is pretty consensus when you look at this. It's 1.02 versus 1.98, which means there's really no deviation on Florida being a 2 seed. Everyone thinks Florida's going to be a 1 seed at this point. Maybe if Alabama wins the SEC, it changes. You've got Tennessee sitting on the 2 line as well. So SEC has 2 1 seeds, 2 2 seeds. Michigan State, they just beat Michigan today. Oh, you know what? Let me actually forgot to do this. Take a look at some of the ranked games today because I'm doing this video later in the day. It's just Michigan State, Michigan, the only ranked matchup. Yeah, Michigan they're going to be like a 5 or a 6 seed at this point. They've been losing everything. They're like 2-4 in their last 6 games. They're going to be a 3 seed in the Big Ten Conference tournament. They have not played well recently. St. John's is sitting on the 2 line. That'll be an interesting battle with Texas Tech. They're probably going to have to win the Big East if they want to stay on the 2 line, though. Michigan State, I would say, is pretty locked in. Like, to me, Tennessee is pretty much locked into a 2 seed. Bama, they just have too many losses, but they maybe could get a 1 seed if they win the SEC, because you're talking about winning huge games, because there's a lot of good teams in that conference, obviously, so that's going to be a lot of big wins if you win it. But I would say Michigan State pretty much locked into a 2 seed. If they get upset in their first game in the Big Ten Conference tournament, you could be looking at a Texas Tech maybe clipping them and taking their spot. They move down to a 3 seed. It's unlikely, though. Texas Tech sitting on the 3 line. St. John's, it's 27-4. It's impressive. We'll see how they do in the Big East tournament. They kind of get a home court advantage, the games at Madison Square Garden. Wisconsin on the 3 line. They're really a 4 seed. Wisconsin's not very good. Texas A&M's another team I really don't buy, honestly. I could see either Wisconsin or Texas A&M losing to a 14. This is based off of high in-depth analytics. You've got Kentucky sitting on the 3 line as well. High octane offense. Kentucky was a 3 seed last year. Remember, they lost to Oakland. But we'll see. Iowa State on the 4 line. Purdue on the 4 line. Maryland on the 4 line. It wouldn't surprise me if Maryland moved to the top of the 4 line, maybe became a 3 seed. Arizona on the 4 line. Clemson. Yeah, Clemson might move up to a 4 with their record. Michigan sitting in a 5v12 game. Oregon sitting in a 5v12 game. St. Mary's a 5 seed in the West Coast. Very impressive year for St. Mary's. Missouri, Ole Miss, I mean, it's considering how many losses those teams have to be 6 seeds, it's not surprising, though, because of the conference. Louisville, even at 18-2 in the ACC, they're a 6 seed. Marquette is a 6 seed even after their loss. It was to St. John's, so it's a quality loss. You've got UCLA, Illinois. Everyone's talking about Illinois. All the normies are going to have Illinois going very far. These are the type of teams that lose in round 1. I might start going against Illinois. I know what happened. They got the flu. They were a really good team early in the season. They've rebounded. They've had a good close to the season. There's all these people talking about Illinois. I don't know. Maybe Illinois will beat it. You know, if they get a 7 seed, they'll be facing a 2 seed if they beat the 10 seed. So listen, maybe they end up going on a deep run. Both BYU and Illinois are on good runs right now. Really good analytically. Memphis sitting on the 7 line. I'm not a big believer in Memphis out of the American. The Americans have been weak. You've got Kansas on the 8 line, Mississippi State, UConn, Gonzaga. Gonzaga is loved analytically as well. Not that it matters a ton, but they are. You've got Creighton on the 9 line, New Mexico, very good record, Vanderbilt, and Georgia. So now they have Georgia clearly in the tournament after being, I mean, for a long time, Georgia was like the first 4 out or the last 4 in. Now they're a 9 seed. This is a bad bubble. It's a very bad bubble. You've got Baylor on the 10 line, West Virginia, Utah State, and Arkansas. And then you've got some of these teams, the last 4 in, San Diego State, VCU. Then Oklahoma, Indiana, who beat Ohio State yesterday at home. Ohio State still somehow makes it. And then Xavier. So basically, when I look at this, if there's 92 total brackets, there's a pretty heavy consensus on all these teams. I mean, Ohio State's appearing in 82 out of the 92. That tells me Ohio State's like destined to be a first 4 team. It'll depend what they do in the Big Ten tournament. They probably need to win 1 game. Indiana being an 89 out of 92, they're probably a first 4 team. Oklahoma's probably a first 4 team. And then Xavier is like hanging on by a thread. They're in 58 out of the 82 brackets. So they would be hanging on by a thread. And then you can see the auto bids here. You've got Drake. You've got UC San Diego. People talking about UC San Diego being an at-large. McNeese, Liberty, Yale, High Point, Akron, Arkansas State, Lipscomb, Chattanooga, Utah Valley, Northern Colorado, Towson, Robert Morris, Central Connecticut State, Bryant, Norfolk State, Omaha Southern, Quinnipiac, Bucknell, and SIU Edwardsville, who, by the way, they're in. I believe they won their conference. They're in. Congratulations to them. And they're not going to be in a first 4 game either. No, there probably will be. The other teams, you've got Boise State, North Carolina, possibly Texas, Nebraska. I think that Nebraska just lost. I think Nebraska's pretty much done. UC Irvine, maybe give them the at-large. This is probably not going to happen. But you're looking at Boise State, North Carolina, the teams that have a chance. Maybe Texas if they go on a run in the SEC. Nebraska, again, seemingly with their loss today, they're probably done. So that's basically that. And then taking a look at this is an updated look at the bubble. You can see Georgia. This is based on net, so it's factored by that's how these teams are ranked. So you've got Georgia as a 10 seed right now, net at number 30. I mean, net's not the end-all, be-all. You can see all these different ones. You want as much green as possible. Like, you can see these top teams. You've got Baylor, VCU, Georgia. Analytically, these teams are probably in. You've got a decent analytics from Ohio State as well. Not a great resume, but decent analytics. You've got decent analytics from North Carolina, too. People will they'll get angry, though, if North Carolina makes it. They'll be like, imagine we get a first four game North Carolina versus Ohio State. That'd be a good first four game. UC San Diego, could they get an at-large? It's unlikely, but we'll have to see. Some of these other teams, Utah State, they've got a really good record. They're probably going to make it. There's Boise State, first four out. They would be in the first four out. First four out for Texas. I mean, Texas, their resume is just so bad. That's the problem. Boise State also has a bad resume as well. Oklahoma probably makes it with the combination of the resume and the quality in terms of the analytical rankings. West Virginia should make it as well. They've got San Diego State in. That makes sense. SMU, very unlikely, even though their net is okay. Nebraska at this point, extremely unlikely. Extremely unlikely. And so that's basically it. They've also got some teams down here. They're shouting out these teams. I mean, there's no way. USC, these teams got like losing records. They're on the bubble. Giving a shout out to TCU, Rutgers. Rutgers is like 14-16. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? But yeah, so guys, that's basically it at this point. I will be going more in depth in terms of the overall bracket and things like that in future videos. But this is just an updated look. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.